And I'm going to mute everybody, but feel free to unmute with questions and things. You can also type in the chat. Oh, Jamie, I muted you too. Can you unmute? There we go. All right. Well, thanks for joining us all this evening, for showing up. And it's so good to be in community with like minds. Yeah. Jamie, do you want to kick off by, I think there's a lot of people on here that know you, but you want to do a quick intro?
Sure. I'm Jami Hearn. I am an intuitive oracle, and I love talking to dead people. I didn't always love talking to dead people. It's been something I've cultivated over the last 4 decades. You know, Robin, I realized that you and I have a combined near century of experience. Like,
oh my
that's
God.
a marker, right? Like, come on.
You're right. I hadn't thought of that. And yeah, revealing our ages here.
Well, you know, there's wisdom that comes with that.
Right. A century of experience in this lifetime.
Exactly. So a lot of you have had an experience with me, and those of you who haven't, perhaps you've had an experience with Robin. But you know that I have spent a lot of time cultivating the connection I have with spirit in order to utilize it and not let it run me, but I get to use it. So that's some of the insights and secrets and tricks that I really want to share with all of you. Why should you have to struggle down the same path I did when I already did it? Like, learn from me. It's like my kid doing the same dumb shit I did when I was a teenager. I tell him, like, you should really learn from my mistakes. And he comes home today with a chipped tooth. I was like, do you know how much I paid for those teeth? Anyway. So Robin, if you want to introduce yourself too, because I know a lot of our stories will come out over the course of the evening.
As we get going, yeah. So I'm Robin Eaton. I am currently located in Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm a shaman, a psychic, an intuitive, an empath, a healer, life coach. Like I kind of wear, you know, I'm kind of a mutt of all things. That's the best way I can describe it. And Jamie and I met, I don't know, a few years back. We were at a coaching conference together, and it was like, where have you been all my life? I've missed you, right? And so instantly we started doing things together, and it's like our gifts just merged and become more when we're in the same room. I am a reluctant speaker to dead people. I am learning how to do that without it being completely overwhelming. Because I'm such a strong empath, that's how they come through to me, and I don't really care for it. So we're working on some rules around that. And I just, like Jamie said, I want to share that century of experience that we have so that you don't have to make the same mistakes that I've made, that you can learn from our combined journeys and learn how to really make these things that can sometimes feel like a curse, turn them into a superpower. Because being an empath is a really, really cool gift when you make friends with it.
Absolutely. And that's a great way to put it, because we spend a lot of time being told that we're wrong for it. And that doesn't create a good experience for us. So making friends with it is a really great frame of reference.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me personally, for a long time, first off, I didn't know I was an empath. I thought everybody could feel what other people feel. And that was when I was a little kid, and I just didn't understand how come everybody didn't have the same experience that I did. Um, Especially when, I could feel like this is upsetting somebody. Why are you continuing to do that? Or if I can feel that what I've said or done is bothering you, like how come you can't feel when I'm upset, when I'm bothered, when I'm sad, when I'm hurt? So as a kid, like I just didn't understand that it was unique, that not everybody could do it. And then growing up, I didn't want to deal with that stuff. So I kind of tried to tune it out, and I just didn't realize how much it was affecting me until I stepped away from, well, so many things, but mostly my career in law enforcement. When I really stepped away from that and took some time to myself and realized how much that empathic ability was with me and affecting me all of the time, and then learning how to play with it, learning how to tune it in and tune it out, and use it when it matters, right?
Robin, would you share with all of us a little bit about your career? Because I think that's an important element, like how being an empath and your career, like where it led you to.
Yeah. So I worked in corrections for over 20 years. I was a federal probation parole officer for 17 years, and I did a lot of work with I did a lot of work in the realm of child pornography and sex offenders, and kind of in that area. And I'm working with people who are carrying a lot of heavy stuff, a lot of heavy emotion, right? Every day. Not to mention just the heavy emotion around going through a court case, or and let alone my coworkers and the crap that I had to deal with working for the government. So there's all this extra stuff, right? And I honestly didn't put together how much it was impacting me. I mean, I knew like I could tell when one of my clients, one of the individuals that I was working with, that I was supervising, I could tell when they had things going on. I could read their emotions pretty easily. I always knew if someone was suicidal. I knew if somebody was lying to me. And I'd play this little game with them about, until they told me. I'd be like, so you want to tell me anything that happened this weekend? And they're like, why? What do you know? I'm like, I don't usually ask questions I don't know the answer to. And we'd kind of go back and forth until they'd let me know what was going on. So it was a benefit to me in doing that work, but it also took a heavy toll on me because I was so unaware of it, and not really working with it and being friends with it. It led me to a place where I was suicidal. I mean, I was working, doing investigations on child pornography cases, and part of what I had to do, part of my job was to review the images and talk to the victims and talk to their families. And whew, I mean, you can probably just hear it in my voice right now as I you know, that energy is so heavy, and it just took me down into a really dark place.
And I mean, unfortunately, I don't think that that's a unique experience. Like the weight of feeling other people's shit is it's really extensive and expensive for us and our energy. It's not only other individuals, but like the world at large right now is super heavy, and not knowing how to manage it can be really difficult, to say
Well,
the least.
and part of it is I think there's a lot of empaths out there that don't even know that it's taking a toll on them, that's something that an ability that they have, and so that unawareness of it can really be a part of it too. So let's just dive into, like, what is an empath? What does that word mean? Right? Jamie, you want to dive in first?
Sure. So I want to preface this with your definition is absolutely perfect. So if Robin or I, or both of us, or neither of us say something that, it either resonates with you or it doesn't resonate with you, don't feel like your definition is wrong. I mean, you can feel like our definition is wrong. We don't care. But I just want to validate everyone's experience is absolutely perfect. And you don't have to defend your position to anyone, especially Robin and me, because we're cool with whatever works for you. So my definition of an empath is someone who is sensitive to the energies being emitted by other people, whether it's emotions, like a mental experience, physical experience, like, or just energetic. There are so many factors that are emanating from your body, your physical body, your light body, your mental body, like all of your bodies. So sometimes you feel something. I always check in, is this mine? And if it's not, then I dig a little deeper. Well, even if it is, I dig a little deeper, but I go down a different path if it's not mine. So for example, the other night I felt super anxious and I was like, is this mine? No, not yours. So I went through everybody in my house. I was like, are you feeling anything? What's going on? And all my kids were cool. Like, no, there was no issue. It was my dog. So you never know who you're going to pick up energy from. And he just needed a little bit of attention, like working on a training protocol. So Robin actually suggested I get this little mat with treats in it, and that makes him happy. If that only solved the problems of the world, right?
Right. If only a snuffle mat helped everybody.
Yes, totally. But it's things like that. Like you feel something and you're like, oh, that feels either uncomfortable, unusual, a surprise. Like I always check in with those emotions. Robin, why don't you share your definition of empath?
Yeah, I will. But first, I just want to highlight what Jamie just dropped on you, because it's so important what she just said about how she checks in. Is this mine? Is this not mine? Because that's one of the very simplest and most important things to remember as an empath, is to check in with that. Is it mine or is it not mine? To distinguish your own energy from the energies around you is the key to really being able to embrace and use empathy as a superpower, and not have it be this curse that's constantly weighing you down.
Right. And Jen asked, how do my guides let me know if it's mine or not? So that's something that you have to cultivate, knowing. Some of us just know. Like you ask a question, you just know the answer. Others of us don't have that instantaneous knowing. So my guides give me a clear answer, but I've spent a lot of time cultivating that relationship. You can use a pendulum. That's a great tool. And I mean, if you don't know how to use a pendulum, we can dig into that another time. But using a tool of divination is also a good way to get an answer.
Absolutely. So empathy, my simplest definition of empathy, of being an empath and what is it, is it's the ability to feel what other people feel, and there's a whole scale of that. There's a whole range of that, right? There's somebody who can sense, I have empathy. I can tell that you're going through a really rough time, right? And so I have an awareness when other people are feeling a certain way or going through a rough time. And that scale of might be that awareness all the way to, like, I literally feel what you feel. Like I walk in a room, somebody's angry, and all of a sudden I'm angry, right? And it can even go beyond that to the sensing of, being able to feel what's going on in somebody else's body, right? You're having sciatic pain, and I sit down next to you and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? Right? All of a sudden my back is killing me, right? Um, so there's a whole range of what it means to be an empath, but my simplest definition is that you can feel what other people feel. Now your degree of that is going to depend on some of just natural ability, and also how much have you worked at tuning into that ability, because these are skills that anybody can learn. This isn't just you're born with it or you're not. This is one of the forms of intuition. It's part of clairsentience, the ability to feel into things. So to feel energy. And I'm guessing that every single one of you has been on the other side of a door and felt tension in the room that you're about to walk into. You've known before you even walk in the room that, like that's where that old saying, you can cut the tension with a knife, because we can literally feel those things, right? I mean, think about how it feels to walk into a funeral home, right? There's a heaviness there, versus if you walk into like an amusement park. There's different energies, and we can feel that. Jamie, you want to say something? I can tell.
I kind of enjoy the energy of walking into a funeral home. And it's not from like a macabre perspective, but when someone has passed or crossed over recently, there's like an energy of celebration around the soul. It's the human experience that's the heavy part.
Great distinction.
So like anything that we say, oh, we feel heavy here and you don't, that's cool too. Like,
right? Jamie and I have very different experiences. I think it's one of the reasons we team teach well, is because Jamie walks in and feels the celebration. I walk in and feel the heaviness of the human experience and the people around me, right? And I have to tune into the celebratory piece of it. So it's different. And again, like learning what's mine and what's yours. Jamie talked about how her guides let her know right away, right? I know right away. All I have to do is ask the question, and I know right away because I've spent years honing that skill. But to begin with, some of the things that you can pay attention to, if all of a sudden you get hit with an emotion, some of the questions to ask yourself when you're trying to figure out, is this mine or is this not mine? Do you have, like, if you suddenly get hit with a bunch of sadness, do you actually have something that you're sad about? Did you just have a thought or a memory that cropped up that would connect to that emotion that you're feeling? Or did it kind of come out of absolutely nowhere and you're like, what the hell is this? Right? Those are some things that you can key into and kind of look for. Is there an explanation for this, or is it kind of just like, what's going on here? Because that'll help you start to distinguish.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Zoom is so glitchy like that. So I'm sorry. Can I inject a mystic secret right here?
Secret? Oh,
secret. So if you tune into something and like you're feeling really sad about whatever, and it is yours, honor the emotion and feel the emotion. Because the more you stuff those emotions down, the more other people's emotions are going to trigger you. And that's usually the least opportune time. So I'm in the Walmart line the other day. I do not go to Walmart. Jen, actually, we talked about feeling things at Walmart. My friend's dad was passing, and I'm always tuned into all the spirits and energies around me. All of a sudden, I'm bawling in the Walmart line, and I'm like, I don't know what the heck is wrong with me. Like, my friend's dad was passing, and his mom came to tell me that like there were all these wonderful things happening around the passing, and it just struck that emotion for me. So I stood in the Walmart line and cried because I was honoring her experience and my emoting of it. So I want to encourage you to allow your emotions, honor them, and experience them. They're there for a reason.
And you absolutely have to learn how to be with your own emotions in order to learn what's mine and what's not mine. Because if you're constantly trying to just stuff emotions away and turn them off and not be with your emotions, first off, you can't just get rid of sadness. If you're going to tune out, if you're going to numb out, if you're going to numb out the tough emotions, you're going to numb out the good emotions too, because you don't get to be choosy. If you numb everything. Think about when you get Novocaine or something, like you get the Novocaine in your mouth and your whole lip is numb. It's not just numb for one food or one drink, it's numb for everything, right? The emotions are the same. If you are going to numb out in whatever way you choose to numb out, you are going to numb the joy as well as the pain. So it's really important that you learn to feel and be with your own emotions. You have to be able to do that in order to not be overwhelmed by other people's stuff. That was part of my problem when I was in probation. I mean, talk about in law enforcement, everything is stuff it, stuff it, stuff it. You ain't got time to deal with that right now. Like we're dealing with other things. So you just keep stuffing and stuffing and stuffing, right? And then I left there and I was like, all I could do was emote because I had all this stuff that needed to come out. But it's a key. It's one of those keys, one of those secrets, right? Those mystical secrets is you got to feel your own shit in order to tell what's yours and what's not yours. Yes. And if you numb anything, you numb everything. I can't stress that enough. That sigh of knowledge.
Let that one just sink in a little. So Violet says that she has the distinct lowering of mood, which comes on suddenly, and the energetic signature is different than hers. That's ultimately, that is the distinction, like being able to recognize your own energy versus others. So Violet, that's awesome that that's already present for you to be able to have that discernment. It's all a continuum of discernment. And the first time you can identify that, like you want to, you're like, oh, I figured it out. And then the next time you can't figure it out. Don't feel like that you've regressed at all, because every energy is slightly different. There are always nuances.
Always. And all of us have our own superpowers, our own, like we all receive intuitive information in different ways, and we each have our own strengths, right? Like for me, I feel things and I know things, right? Those are that's how my intuition speaks the loudest to me. Now I'll also get other things I'll see and hear and some of those others. Jamie, what are your superpowers? How does intuition speak to you the loudest?
No, I'm claircognizant. I'm a knower. Second is probably clairvoyant, and I don't necessarily see things in front of me. I see things on what I call the drive-in movie theater screen in my head. I like visuals. So if you're not super clear on where that space is that you see in your head, like think about what your car looks like or what your pet looks like. And that spot that you can see it in your brain, that's the drive-in movie theater screen. That's where I see a lot of stuff.
So let's just sit with that for a minute, because Jamie just dropped a really, like, that's a big one on how to tune in if you want to see things, right? If you take the time to really find where your movie screen is, then you can play with it more. And then you can start asking for things to show up in that way. Is this mine? Show me a big green yes. Is this not mine? Show me a big red stop sign, right? You can start to establish rules, and you can play with the different senses, right? So if you're more a seer, like Jamie's talking about, you can ask for that. I'm more of a feeler. So for me, if I want my guides to weigh in, I'll ask for like a tap on the shoulder, or give me a gut, give me a pull at my gut, give me a pull at my heart, right? Because that's where I'm going to feel things. So do you guys want to try it out?
Yeah. I have to admit though, the tap on my shoulder when I'm alone in the room does tend to spook me a little. I'm like, what? Who just touched me?
It did take me a little while to get used to the like physical touch. Just like it's taken me a little to get used to, I have wind chimes in most of the rooms of my house, and I'll ask them to play the wind chimes for me for different things, to verify, validate, or whatever. It took me a little to get used to that too, especially when it wakes me up in the middle of the night. Now we had to set some ground rules around that, because I really like my sleep. And Jamie's grandfather woke me up one night. I was not happy.
And it wasn't even the grandfather I liked.
And he like, I just woke up to this very tall man glowering over me with all this intensity. And I was like, turn that down. I'm trying to sleep.
Becky knew him. He wasn't friendly. She can attest to that.
He did turn it down. He listened. But would you guys like to give a little try to finding kind of your yes, your no right now?
Yeah.
So what I want everybody to do is just take a moment, and I want you to think about a time in your life where somebody was lying to you, and you knew absolutely without any doubt that they were lying to you, and you later got proof of that. Like, so you knew it absolutely, and you know it was true. You know that they were lying to you. So take a moment, see if you can think about that when that happened. And if it helps, just to tune into it, close your eyes. And once you have that moment, once you have that memory, I want you to really tune into that memory, feel into that moment, put yourself right back there with that person right there lying to you. And now I want you to scan your body. Where does that lie show up in your body? You might feel it, you might just sense it, you might get a clear, like it's here. Find where that shows up for you. And when you have it, maybe just type it in the message. Where's your no show up? Where does it show up in your body? Type it in the chat.
I'll share mine. Mine shows up in the throat chakra, and it's constricting, like almost like I'm having a hard time breathing.
Feel like you're going to throw up in your throat? Yep. Your knees, ears, like, so you see how it shows up differently for so many? The heart, the gut.
Lower right back for Matt, ears. Yeah. Awesome.
Right? That's your no. It's gonna be, and it's always gonna show up like that for you. So now you know where your no is, right? Once you know that, now I can ask that question, is that my energy or is it not? And your answer, if it's a no, you know where your answer is gonna show up. So let's try the same thing and find your yes. Okay, so this time we're gonna go to the opposite. But first, before we go there, everybody really quick, I want you to just speak out loud. What's your favorite kind of ice cream? Mine is chocolate. Jamie, your favorite?
Vanilla.
Okay, everybody just, what's your favorite kind of ice cream? Get that out. And then we're going to go into the next thing. So this time, I want you to tap into a memory of when someone was telling you the truth and you knew 100% without a doubt this person was being straight with you. They were giving you the absolute truth. And again, later it bore out, you actually got the evidence, the proof later on. So think of a time when someone was speaking the truth to you, was sharing something, was maybe sharing their truth with you, was really giving you an answer that you knew was truthful. So tap into that time, that memory. And when you have it, once again, I want you to really tune into really put yourself in that moment, in that memory, experiencing it again. And then tune into your body and find where truth shows up for you, where that's going to be your yes. And once again, just throw it in the chat when you find your yes. So again, we're seeing different spots again.
I like Tara's warmth in my torso. That's
right?
Nice. That's super comforting.
I love that. Yeah. And the more you play with this, the more that you deliberately tune into it, the stronger it will be, and the more you might get a little extra sensation. You might start to notice warmth or cold. You might notice temperature. You might notice texture. It might get, just develop more and more for you over time, the more you work with it.
And it may also shift. Like, that's the sensation that resonates with you now. As you get to know it better, you may notice more subtlety showing up in other ways. So just be aware, just observe it. That's all that you need to do.
And if anybody had trouble tuning into that right here and now with us, this is an exercise that you can come back to and do later for yourself when you're not like put on the spot where the whole room is trying to do this. Like, you can take some time to really find that memory, that clean memory for yourself, and sit with this and do this again. So if you didn't get it now, please come back to it later and just give it a try.
Awesome. Good job, everyone.
Yeah. I love it when everybody plays along.
Yeah, right?
What questions do you all have?
Wow. Wild group we have tonight, huh?
I know, right? Nobody wants to test us.
What else do we have on our bullet list that we want to make sure we share with people?
How do we stop the overwhelm?
Oh, okay. So I think we've integrated a lot of that, but let's review what we've talked about there.
So one of the ways to stop overwhelm is make sure that you are feeling your own feels, right? Allowing yourself to tune in and feel your own feels, which means no numbing out, right? And I'm, Jamie and I are both familiar with numbing out. We've each done that too, but remember, when you numb out, you numb everything, right? So when we're trying to tune in to any of our intuitive senses, you gotta tune in. You gotta feel the feels.
Right. And I'm stepping into taking accountability for what's yours and identifying what isn't really helps to control the overwhelm. Because if you make the choice to just let it all wash over you, you're making the choice to be overwhelmed. And you guys all have the control of your experience. So Don't let anyone else, energy wise or otherwise, control your experience. You make that choice.
So one of the things with that I just want to hit on is, one of the ways that being an empath can kind of play with us and trick us is, if I feel what you feel, then if I can make you feel better, I feel better, right? So it becomes this cycle of, if I can get the people around me to feel better, then I feel better because I'm feeling your stuff, right? Until I learn how to separate it out. So it can be, you really have to pay attention to that and understand that that's kind of how it works, and 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 set some boundaries, right? Take the time to take care of yourself. Take the time to recharge in whatever way that you recharge, right? If that means that you need time alone to recharge, do it. If you need time out, playing at a concert or something like that feeds you, then do it. If it's like hanging out with your dogs, whatever recharges you, to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Because when you can feel what other people feel, there's a natural tendency to want to make others feel better. But it's not our job to take away feelings and things from somebody else, right? I mean, we always want to be of service and help others, but you want to be careful that you don't start trying to take on the world's problems and carry that all yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, for me.
How about everybody other than Jamie? Like, just give me a little nod or a wave, or a thumbs up if this is landing for you. And if you have questions about it, like, hit us up, right?
We do
Yeah.
have a couple questions getting posted.
Okay.
Deb asks, the best way to connect with higher self.
That's a really good question, and it's really individual for everybody. Personally, I think one of the best ways to learn to connect with your higher self, you got to get quiet and be alone. You got to be with yourself, right? And that's why meditation is such a powerful tool, and a lot of people use meditation to connect, is because if you want to connect with higher self, you have to get quiet and listen and engage a conversation.
Yeah, and that being alone is super uncomfortable sometimes. So I'm a great storyteller. Well, I don't know if I'm a great storyteller, but I'm a big storyteller. So I'm always like, I always like to share my anecdotes, because maybe you'll be able to like connect with that. So I'll tell you, the first time as an adult that I consciously made the choice to be with myself and not go do something. I had just gotten divorced, so I was in a bit of a custody battle with my ex-husband. I broke up with the rebound, who happened to have the same name as my ex-husband, just, to keep it all straight, right? And I made the intentional decision to stay home alone for a whole weekend. And I can remember it being like 7 o'clock on Saturday night, and I was stir crazy. Like, I was pacing around the house. I'm like, I'll go to Walmart. I'll go anywhere. I just have to get out of the house. But I forced myself to stay in that space, because I was pretty new on the path of really figuring this out. And I didn't have a conscious knowledge that that's what I needed to do. I had an innate guidance that told me I needed to get comfortable with myself. And it was really hard. After I got through that point, now I love being by myself, and my greatest guidance comes in when I'm by myself. I also am really picky about where I spend that quality time with myself. So I love to go in the woods. I love to sit by the pond. I love to be in nature. And those places I have the greatest capacity to connect with myself. So my advice is, Deb, find a spot that you feel really resonant with to endeavor connecting with yourself more effectively.
And I just want to add that doesn't have, you can find that spot in your own mind too. So
Great
I
point.
journey, I have a spot that I journey to, that I go to in my own head when I take my quiet time. I go sit, and if I close my eyes, I can see it right now. There's a big rock and this beautiful pond, and there's mountains over here, and off this way is a forest, and there's a little fire pit here, right? And I go to this same place every time when I sit to just connect like that. So you don't have to actually physically go. You can also, although I love to actually go and do just like Jamie's talking, and there's so much to connecting with Mother Earth that will add to that. But you can do it in your own head. And I just want to point out something that Christy put in the chat about how meditation can be intimidating, because a lot of people think like you have to sit in the lotus position and you have to hold that for an hour and you can't move, and you just there's this fancy formal way that you have to meditate. And there are a lot of really cool ways to meditate. But if you've never meditated before, try setting a timer for 2 minutes and just sitting quietly. And when that timer, when that timer surprises you and you're not like waiting for it to go off, then add a minute. And again, like just add a minute at a time so that it isn't overwhelming, because sometimes 2 minutes is a lot. It feels like forever. And there are days I love to meditate. I do this stuff all the time. I teach, I do group meditations and all this fun stuff. And some days 5 minutes of quiet seems like forever for me. And other days an hour doesn't seem long enough, right? So it's, you gotta work with yourself and give yourself a lot of grace.
Absolutely. Our next question is from Becky, and looks like Jesse seconded this. How do you stop fighting and let more feeling in?
One of the ways is to get quiet and spend some time with yourself.
I'm sensing a theme.
Right? Another, I know for me at first, I had to force it. I was in such a habit and such a pattern of stuffing my emotions and numbing them out with food and other stuff that lots of, there's so many ways to numb out. And I was in such a habit of that I really had to force it. I had to sit with, what am I angry about? And then it was like I couldn't even really tap into it. I was kind of faking my way through it. Well, I'm angry about this, or I'm angry that like this is happening in society. And so for me, one of the ways that I could actually touch the emotion was movies. Like I'd watch a movie that would piss me off. I'd watch a movie where with something that would get under my skin, or I'd watch a movie that would make me want to cry, or I would watch the commercials where they show all the little abused animals and ask for your money, because that would get right. Like I never want to watch those. But literally sometimes you have to play little games if you've been numbing for a really long time, to start the flow of emotion and just and let it happen.
So you just mentioning that commercial like brings up all this emotion for me. It seems like there have been an inordinate number of them, and I don't watch a lot of TV, and I collect like all of my dogs around me, and I'm like, it's okay, babies, it's okay. And really it's me that needs the soothing, not them. They're like, oh, here goes mom again.
right? I mean, it was really, really hard for me at first to tap back into emotions because I'd shut them down for so I mean, look, I had to look at images of child pornography as part of my job. I had to shut that shit down or it would have destroyed me as I was trying to do my work. Now, it took its toll and it took me a long time after tuning back in and learning how to deal with that trauma and let things go and work that out. But the first step is to feel the feels, right? And I didn't want to feel the feels. I didn't want to go back to that and feel all the feels that I had stuffed away for all those little kids. I didn't want to. But as long as I pushed it away, it was controlling me, right? And so you just got to you got to find whatever trick, whatever will work for you to feel the feels. And once they start, remember, if you've been shutting it down for a long time and numbing out for a really long time, when it comes back, it's going to feel overwhelming. It's going to feel like a flood. I promise you, the flood is temporary. If we think about a flood, actual floodwaters, eventually the floodwaters recede, right? You got to stay with it long enough to let the floodwaters recede.
Beautiful. That's a great illustration of that. So we talked about Christy's comment about meditation and trying it for a short period of time. Beth said meditation is great for her to connect with her guides. Absolutely. That's a fantastic way to connect with your guides. There are other ways too, if meditation isn't the most comfortable way for you to do that. So don't feel like, oh, well, meditating isn't like my strong suit, so how am I ever going to make friends with my guides? There are plenty of ways. Don't stress over that. Hang with us long enough and you'll figure it out. Jen says that she journeys to talk to her higher self. Beautiful. Much like Robin's process. I actually used to meet my higher self at a cafe in Paris, right outside of Notre Dame on Ile de la Cité, until Notre Dame burned, and then it just felt disingenuous to me, so I switched. You can change your spot anytime. Perfect, right? Jen also said guided meditations are great. Matt is wondering how to get his brain to stop wandering in order to meditate. And I liked Jen's answer. Let it go.
Jen's answer, there's so much truth to that. So here's what I'm going to tell you about your mind not wandering. This is what my meditation guru told me. Thoughts, good, means you're alive. No thoughts, bad, you're dead. If you're not having thoughts, you have died. You're going to have to communicate through Jamie because she's our medium. So, I mean, that whole idea that you're not going to have thoughts is again one of those myths around meditation, right? Over time, the more you meditate, the quieter things will get for most people, right? But even when I'm in the middle of a journey or a meditation, sometimes the grocery list pops in, or I'll be like, or some random other thing, or somebody's name will pop in and I'm like, oh yeah, I should reach out to them later. And then I'm like, oh yeah, and back to your breath, like follow your breath, right? So when your mind wanders, it's normal. It means you're alive. Your brain is functioning the way it's supposed to. This is a good thing. The more you stay with it, the more you play with it, the better. Sometimes you can help by listening to a guided meditation, because that'll give your brain something to focus on. You might play some sounds. You might try playing around with pink noise or white noise, or some of those things might help. You might play around with like I journey a lot instead of just quietly meditating. And in my journey, like I said, I'll go to this place and I'll let whatever comes, whatever shows up, show up. So there's different ways to play around if you have a wandering brain. I have lots of like random thoughts when I'm in those processes.
So, random thought, is the Jaguar yours or does it belong to someone else?
Jaguar is normally with me, but it feels like Jaguar is well, as I tune in, she has messages for everybody. This is actually one of her favorite topics because Jaguar teaches us the way beyond death. Jaguar teaches us to protect our medicine space and how to be impeccable and find our way beyond death, which is that, you know, your mind, your spirit, your consciousness carries on even without a body. And so she's kind of pacing right now. I don't know if you feel that too.
Yeah.
And she's here for everybody.
So I just want to give y'all a little insight. This is how Robin and I communicate across like 2,000 miles. Monkeys will show up and they'll be like, Robin needs to know this. And I'm like, Robin, why are there monkeys in the room?
Yeah. Oh my God. I woke Jamie up in the middle of the night one night. We're at a conference together and I'm like, Jamie, somebody's here and they want to talk to me and I can't figure out who it is. And she's like, why is there like an ape here? I'm like, oh, because I have in Iowa, there's a great ape center. And I've worked with, I have a relationship with 5 of them out there. And one of them was trying to get my attention and I just was too tired, and I'm kind of grumpy when I get woke up. I'll just be real. I'm real grumpy when I get woke up. And so I wasn't taking the time to figure it out. I was like, Jamie, tell me what's going on so I can go back to sleep.
Yeah, it happens.
There's, monkeys. They don't actually like to be called monkeys, though. They're not.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway,
back to our people. Get back to the question.
So Sharon doesn't do well with quiet, and she's starting to realize why. You want to
Yes,
share?
dear. So yeah, I mean, you guys are talking about like take the time to acknowledge your own emotions and feelings, and I've spent my whole life blocking them out. So I kind of popped in more to figure out, I think I'm probably just starting the journey of understanding why I feel everybody's feelings and the fact that I do. I'm pretty sure you knew that a really long time ago, Jamie, but I guess my question is, I do block it out. Walmart is the worst place in the world possible. So it's easier for me to just ignore what everybody around me is feeling, but it's hard to sometimes. What's the benefit to listening to it and paying attention to the feelings that they're feeling, the thoughts that they're having? I hear people's thoughts. What is this, I guess? Am I supposed to like walk up to someone and hug them because I hear them saying I really need a hug today and not get the cops called on me?
Well, get permission first.
I want it to, but I just feel like, no, I can't.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes we get information just be like, it's kind of, there's so much information and things happening around us all the time. And we learn to tune into what matters to us and what doesn't. It's kind of like if you start shopping for a new car and you're looking at a red Mazda, all of a sudden you're going to see those everywhere because you're paying attention to it. We learn how to tune in and tune out to the things that matter. And right now, like when you're going through that kind of opening up and sensing this stuff, you're going to get all kinds of stuff. Again, it's kind of like a flood. But you'll learn with time, the more that you work with it, the more that you can learn how to filter it. And so one of the things that I do is to really, you have this aura, this bubble of energy around you. And when I was first learning how to really filter information and filter the stuff that was coming at me, and I do mean filter, not shield, because if we shield, you lock your energy in, and that's not healthy. It gets stagnant and it can be really oppressive. But to filter, and so I would just imagine like this filter, like a coffee filter around me, that would let information and stuff come in and let my energy go out. But anything like heavier that I didn't want to take on would get stuck. So I would know if there was something I needed to know, but it wouldn't like stick to me and become mine.
That makes sense.
I was scrolling around and I lost track. Okay. Jesse said, that is the only time we feel emotions. I get big mad and will bawl my eyes out. So, Jesse, where are you? Here you are. When is the only time you feel emotion?
During movies and like certain shows, like I will get to the point where I am yelling and like about to tell Matt to turn it off, or I will be epically bawling my eyes out and like the hyperventilating and all of that. But usually outside of movies and stuff like that, I'm like, we're good. Nothing to see here.
Becky says, I have to mute them more, I think. The voices or the TV? Victor, you got to click the button so we can hear you.
That was for the animal commercials. I have to
Oh, yeah, totally.
They're so hard.
I cry at a drop of a hat. Like yeah. Any kind of kid, anything to do with children, anything, I cry.
And emotions aren't a bad thing. You know, we live in a society where we've been taught to suppress our emotions, to hide our emotions, that emotion is weakness. And that's nonsense, right? So it is a bit of an unlearning to learn to let your emotions show up when and where they show up and be with them.
It's very hard.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's easy. It's simple, but it's not easy, right?
Yes.
Amanda has an off-topic question. We love that. Hi, Amanda.
Yeah.
I get premonitions, typically only about bad things coming, rarely good. Why is that? Why are your eyes brown? Are they hazel? Like she's giving me the look. Take yourself off mute and you can talk and talk with us.
They're hazel.
So this is a great question because this is one of the fears people have around their intuition, that they're only going to know bad things. And in my experience, it's a matter of being aware of the things around you and the messages you're getting. And often the bad things are louder because you've ignored the 12 good things before it because they didn't seem quite as consequential as the bad one. That's my opinion.
It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. My premonitions are what brought me into my spiritual journey. I've ignored them for so long and I'm like, oh, that's a coincidence. And then like one thing happened and I'm like, there's no freaking way. There's no way. And so I've been on my spiritual journey for about 1.5 years now. And I'm happier now, just overall. It's been awesome.
Awesome.
A lot with Lisa at Inner Peace. She's been a great mentor for me. And I saw you posting and I'm like, I'm going to check her out too.
I love Lisa.
Amanda, you can start asking for more of the good things to show up too.
Okay.
One of the reasons that we get a lot of those bad, right? I mean, our bodies are wired for danger. I mean, that's a primal instinct and an urge. And so it's always going to be louder than anything else if there's true danger, because we're literally wired for it, and our guides are trying to help us out too. But and as a society, again, we're kind of programmed to look for the bad, to look for the danger, to look for the warnings, to look at that side of things. The more that we look for the good, the more that we acknowledge the good, the more that we ask for the good, the more that we give gratitude, the more of that will come in too. And it is kind of a fine tuning of awareness that goes on too. But there's so much of working with our intuition that involves like deprogramming what society has told us to pay attention to.
Thank you guys so much. That's super, super helpful.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
So Lasha is jumping off. Bye. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for joining.
So I won't skip any of the questions and let ADHD rear its head, Jen. But Violet, Robin, does Violet know about the bonobos?
I don't know.
Because she said there was a bonobo in your head.
Well, it's bonobos that I have the experience with.
Right.
There's a family of them that live here in Des Moines and that I went out and worked with. So yeah, there is a bonobo. Yeah.
Yes, I love it.
That's so good that you picked up on that.
Oh, it's Ginny.
Oh,
why
well,
are
sure.
you showing up as Violet then, Ginny?
So funny.
Anyway, okay, Barb says, what about dreams? I often get messages through dreams. Can you comment on dreaming, dreams, dream state? Well, I want to preface that with dreams are like a huge rabbit hole. So we'll skirt over the superficial, but that's definitely a deep conversation that I want to make sure we do it justice and don't just leave you thinking like the 3 things we tell you are all of it.
Right. But the basic, I mean, the gist of it is we often get messages through dreams because that is when we are most open to receiving. When we're sleeping, the ego is turned off, right? The brain, we're in a different space. And so that's the easiest time for spirit to communicate with us. And so we will often receive messages in our dreams in that way, because that's when we're the most open. All your protection, all your, I don't believe in this, or this can't be real, or, all the worries, that stuff gets turned off in your sleep.
Robin is the dream expert, so we'll just let her roll with that, because I just like to talk to aliens while I'm like in that liminal state. So
while you're there. Yeah. But dreams is like a whole nother, we could spend 10 hours talking about dreams and barely touched.
So just in case you're wondering whether I'm serious or not, usually when I say crazy shit like that, I am serious. But some people just think I'm kidding, and that's okay. So you can take it however you want. Tara says, when you become more open and information floods in, how do you slow it down sometimes? Lately, it's like things coming in from all directions. She feels crazy. We've all been there. Mm-hmm. And a jaguar is often with her in meditation too. Super cool.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Jamie, but when I'm feeling like I want to slow things down, like I literally have like this mental image of a dial that I can tune, like a volume dial where I can turn the volume down and turn the volume up. And I also know that when it feels like everything's coming at me really fast, I need to slow down. right? So I need to take some time to slow myself down, to maybe have some quiet time, some alone time, and to create that space for myself, because that's how I slow everything else down, and then it just seems like I'm back in flow and it's easy again.
So I love the idea of using a dial. I actually find good success altering my breathing pattern, because all of us breathe in such a shallow, rapid pattern. So I literally stop whatever I'm doing and I deepen my breath. I feel my breath go all the way down into my pelvis. And like a lot of people are like, oh, okay, I can do a belly breath, but make it even deeper and slow the pattern. That really helps me to slow the information or whatever energy is coming in that I'm feeling overloaded with.
Breath work is so powerful. It's so important.
I hope that's helpful to you, Tara. Amanda, screen door. You know the thoughts are there, but can't get in until you open the door. I love it.
Good.
So maybe Christy's talking about somebody you know at the screen door. I don't know, maybe. Wait, is there somebody you know at the screen door and there's a movie on, Jesse? This is good. It's hard for me to keep up with this. Synchronicities. You're right, Christy. There are no coincidences. Synchronicities are happening all around us. But it's all happening because it's the outcropping of the vibration and frequency we're operating in. We already said goodbye to Lasha and Ginny. Amanda had to run, be right back. She's back. Oh no, I don't need to know about Ginny and her stalker.
We'll leave that alone for now.
Nancy wants to know which aliens I talked to. Well, I talked to a bunch of them, but right now I've been spending a lot of time with Palladian energy and Arcturian energy. So one thing that I don't know if all of you know about me, most of you know, I use the Akashic Records for pretty much everything. And
she's a master at it.
Oh, thank you. The Arcturians oversee the records. So I have a pretty close working relationship with them. They're my favorite energy to come in at nighttime. So that's when I chat with them. Kiki, I don't know if you're still here, but thanks for coming. Amanda said, screen door to allow spirit through. Oh yeah, I knew where you were going. I was just distracted by somebody that you know outside the door in the movies. So sorry, Amanda. I didn't mean to derail your image. Lisa taught you that. Lisa's really awesome. So for those of you who don't know Lisa is this like super soft-spoken, gentle, kind psychic medium who is local to us here in northeastern Pennsylvania, and she's just a wonderful energy. So I'm glad she taught you that, because she has some really cool tricks up her sleeve.
Yeah. Jamie, we should probably wrap up for the evening and tell everybody about what's next. And
yeah, let's do it. So all of you will get an email most likely tomorrow morning with this recording, so you can reference back, share
it out to anybody that you think that didn't make it, but you think they might be interested. Feel free to share the recording.
Yeah, we're happy to disseminate information. And I invite you to keep your eye out on the stuff that we're doing over the next couple of months, because this is really our mission, to create an environment that is nurturing and supportive of all of you learning how to use the gifts you have in a way that supports you, is comfortable, and you know you're not crazy, because you're not. I promise. I mean, some of us maybe could be considered a little crazy now and then, but that's totally normal too.
So I just put in the chat a link to themysticsacademy.com. Jamie and I have come together and created this school, an online school, and it is open for enrollment. So I'm going to drop that in there for all of you to check out. And we are going to be doing more events like this. We are going to be, if you watch your email, we've got a challenge coming up. We're gonna drop some very specific lessons on how to dial into your intuition on an even deeper level. And so we're gonna kick that out as a free challenge. We've got a lot of stuff that's coming, because like Jamie said, it's our mission to get this information out there to help people really embrace their talents, to create community and bring everybody together in spaces like this.
I love you, Jen. She wants to learn and teach with us.
Beautiful. I love that.
Jen's a ton of fun. She'll fit right in with us.
So we're going to be sending out more information about this school. We're happy to stick around a little while and answer questions, but I want to respect all of your time as well. And just thank you so much for showing up and joining us tonight. It's been a great conversation. I love the questions. Like Jamie knows, like I feed off questions. I'm like, ooh, give me something I'm not sure how to answer.
Amanda says we're sassy in the best way. Thank you, Amanda, but she already knew that about me. It was a surprise for you. Thank you everyone for joining us. So it was great to be in the energy of so many talented, connected, like-minded people.
Yeah.
And Victor and Matt, thanks for hanging with us and
Absolutely
anchoring down the masculine. You guys are rock stars. We even made Victor unmute and chat with us.
and speak with us a little bit.
Matt, you didn't talk to us.
But you could now if you want.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Oh, no problem. I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
He loves you guys and the
I
fact
sure
that
do.
you cuss, especially you, Jamie.
I've actually been holding back tonight.
I did too, because Tara's little boy was around us like, behave yourself.
Well, we love it and approve.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that about your cussing, because I catch myself now, and you know how bad my mouth is. My next door neighbor, I'm in the house that I grew up in. So the next door neighbor has been there my whole life, and she's a retired teacher, kindergarten teacher. So we'll be sitting out in the backyard and I'm like, F this, and just on and off. And she just looks at me and she's like, I hear it all the time now, so I'm over it. Okay. Lots of love to you. We're not in school anymore.
Oh.
Are there any other questions? Anybody want to share anything else?
Jamie, are you going to do any workshops teaching about the Akashic records? Because I'm doing a lot of work in that myself, and that's really, I'm really interested in that area.
Yes. There are a couple of things coming up. I'll shoot you an email with the dates once I have them nailed down.
Okay, great.
But the Akashic class is, I don't even have a date. I can't, sorry. I will send it to you because I don't want to tell you a date and have it be totally wrong. So yeah, I'll send that over to you so you can
Thank you.
have the accurate date. Ginny also wants to know about the records.
Well, everybody does, Jamie. We'll just kick it out.
Okay.
Who doesn't?
So how, I guess I'm looking for advice. How do you handle like family members that think you're a complete whack job, but this is something that means so much to you? And when we're really into something or we really love something like our kids or our job, like we talk about it all the time. And it almost is hurtful to not be able to share certain things, not other people's business, but certain experiences we have and things with, you know, like my mom. Because I feel like she looks at me like I'm insane. She won't
tell
say
her to call
but
me.
do. Don't tell her I said that. Shh.
Okay. So
It's a
I
really
think
good question.
yeah, and I think Robin and I both have had similar experiences to that. So for me, I actually made the conscious decision not to share that piece of who I am with my mom. She calls it that talking to dead people shit. So it's not like she's real supportive. So I have been intentional building a community around myself who I can talk to. Like I can call Robin anytime and say, oh my God, Robin, my great grandmother was throwing the cabinets open here tonight. I actually was telling her about
We
that
actually
before.
talked about that earlier.
And she's like, well, what did she want? You know, like you need to find those people. And unfortunately, it's not always the people that we're really close with. But Amanda, you have a specific reason you need to find those people, because you have a little girl who has a connection that is far beyond what you can even conceptualize yet. And you're going to need to cultivate yours in order to hold that space for her to cultivate hers. So you're going to be for her what you're looking for right now. And when you want to talk about it, call me or call Lisa or find those people that you can talk to. And it's okay that it's not your mom or not your partner or whoever it is. You need to feel comfortable that you can tell them anything, like anything about this crazy world that we are flourishing in, right?
Second what Jamie is saying, but I want to honor part of what you said there, Amanda, is it can be really hurtful when it's somebody close to you. I mean, I get that because, you know, in my family, there are some who accept everything. There are others who make fun of me for it and are just happy that I'm happy. And then there's my dad who he's like, we don't need to talk about what you're doing now, as he's like literally hands up and moving away. You know, and initially I was really careful about what I said around him because it makes him so uncomfortable. And I was really worried that it would kill our relationship. And I love my dad. I don't want to not have my dad in my life.
Right.
But I also recognize that I'm asking him to give me something that he really can't give me, because this part of my world scares the shit out of him.
Right.
He's terrified. So like Jamie said, I've cultivated community where I can talk about anything. And with my dad, I mean, this is my livelihood, right? So it comes up.
Right.
I don't seek him out to have conversations about it, but I also don't hide it when I'm in his presence and maybe my mom asks me about something. We'll have a conversation and I let my dad choose whether he wants to leave the room or stay or how he wants to handle it, right? I let him deal with that. I know he loves me and I love him, and I know that this is just not something he can handle. He hasn't, and that's his to handle. That's his to work out, not mine. So and when I stopped trying to get that from him, right? When I'm honoring who he is and recognizing where that comes from, it helps me to not be hurt by it.
Right.
You know, because that's very real. And so I want to, first off, I honor the courage that you have to bring that up and put that, because that's a really real issue. And it's something that we all face within this world, when we play in this realm. There are people we may lose over it because they just can't handle it.
I lost a bit in the last 6 months. That was a hard loss, but so what at this point? And is it my little daughter Zariah? Because I'm pretty sure I know which daughter it is, but I don't know, and now I really want to know, because now you know, and I've been feeling it since birth.
Is she the one who's almost as tall as you?
No, that one's Kaylee. I've tried to get her, but she's freaked out by it. She's freaked out by it because of certain experiences she's had. But
She's so connected, and she doesn't know what to do with it.
And it freaks her right out. It freaks her out to talk about it.
So you have to get a handle on it first before you can help her to get comfortable with it, because it's very loud for her.
Yeah. And
so you're doing great stuff. Like you're taking the steps that need to be taken to be the most supportive you can be of her and her journey. You have to get yours moving and be supportive of your journey first.
So there will be a day when I stage the house and she's not looking at me like, I can't wait. And thank you guys for that, because I do feel hurt by it, but I sometimes expect myself from other people, and so if I kind of just let an expectation go, maybe it won't hurt so much when I feel like they have a negative reaction. And like you said, build a community. This is why I like to be around people like you guys and Lisa and everyone at Inner Peace. And, you know, Randy, my boyfriend, he's super supportive, and he's all down to learn whatever I learn. I'll be like, guess what I learned today? And he'll be like, what? And he just soaks it all up. So in this house, we're good. It's when other people come into my space, I feel like what I believe in is violated. It's kind of like going into church and being like, well, Jesus wasn't white. You know what I mean?
Robin doesn't let me talk about religion.
Yeah, I'm gonna call a halt here. We're not, because we're not gonna go there tonight.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I love it. Becky said she's a good listener too.
Yeah. So you really just gotta find people that want to talk about it. I mean, it's the same as any topic. I'm not really a sports fan. And so people start talking to me about sports and I, like, my eyes glaze, I tune out. I'm looking like, how can I escape? Right. You know, so it's kind of like that. I don't get into the conversation with people that aren't into it because I don't want that response. Just like if somebody wants to talk baseball or basketball or football, they're not coming to me. Because they're not going to get the response that they want on that.
I have not gotten the response I expected from you on other matters too.
Truth.
Just saying. Well, Robin, I think that we have definitely stirred up some energy tonight, and I want to thank everybody for joining us and hanging with us this long.
Yes, absolutely.
I turn into a pumpkin, so
we've hit Jamie's bedtime, which means it's time to wrap things up. And truly, man, I love each and every one of you. I'm so grateful that you showed up. I love the energy and getting together in this space. And I hope you will continue to join us as we continue to offer things. And please, if there's any questions or any follow-up, reach out to us. We love this shit. if you haven't noticed, like, this is our jam. And so stay connected, reach out if you have questions or things come up, and just thank you so much for being here.
Peace and badass magic, everyone. Bye.
Good night, Jamie. Goodbye, everybody.